Hi, and welcome to the Chronic Health Collective, where we empower you to transform your life. And we've gathered the best coaches and experts to bring you insights that will elevate your physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. Whether you're looking to boost your energy, heal relationships, or live a more productive, balanced life, we're here to guide you every step of the way. I'm Sandra, and I welcome you to the Chronic Healthy Collective, and welcome Kristy, our amazing guest.
Thank you.
My dear friend.
Yes. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Kristy. How are you?
Oh, fabulous. Just enjoying the spring weather.
Indeed, indeed. And for a little bit of an introduction, because you have a really phenomenal past, and Kristy, so everyone knows, is a 30-year veteran teacher, Khristy Boyd-Johnson, and she has an extensive and varied teaching background, including tutoring kids with learning differences, advocating for them, and homeschooling both individuals and groups. And as it has been for many teachers on the front line, being part of the school system was an ordeal for Kristy. And by witnessing both the successes and failures, she really held a strong vision for a paradigm shift that benefits students, parents, and teachers everywhere, the Barefoot Learning Club. And so, Kristy, it's just so wonderful to have you here and to share everything about this. And so, for some context, what was the litmus? Like, what got you going on this? Why is this? Why are you so passionate about this?
Well, I started teaching as very young, pretty much right out of school, young, very young, in my early 20s. And at that time, I didn't know any better. I'm just like every other new teacher, going in with full of theory and walk in the classroom, and it immediately goes right out the window because the realities of the classroom, the theory doesn't even match at all. And, at that time, I didn't really know. I just kind of was flowing along, doing what I was told, learning from other teachers who were, mostly at that time, it was classroom management because I had no clue. My first classroom was a kindergarten classroom. And I walked in and the teacher welcomed me, and I was there to replace her. She was leaving the job, but I was supposed to have 2 weeks of training with her. And she said, "Excuse me for a minute, I'm going to use the ladies' room." And she never came back.
And so
she just left
you.
She's left me there all by myself. I didn't know the kids. I didn't know what I was doing. It was just like, oh my God, talk about being thrown into the deep end.
For sure.
Yeah. Fortunately, the teacher in the next door room, I think she was kind of savvy to the fact that lady was going to take off on me. She kind of helped me out at the beginning and helped me get to learn the kids and all this. And right from the beginning, I was told how wrong I was all the time. Like I didn't know anything about what these kids were doing. I didn't know how the teacher had structured the class. I didn't know about their morning routine and all these things. So I invented my own. And that was a Monday. That same Friday, the principal walked in on me. And by that time, I had gotten to know the kids well enough. I had them. They were acting out the solar system. One of them was the sun. There were planets. They were,
impressive.
They were walking in circles. And I was trying to make them physically understand, because it's, the sun doesn't rotate. You rotate around the sun and all that kind of stuff, right? And I got yelled at for not teaching the approved curriculum. Oh, no. And I'm like, well, you just dumped me in here. And not to mention the fact that I thought the kids were having a lot of fun. They were learning. They were totally getting it. They knew all the names of the planets by Friday.
So you could really see a transformation in these children in that brief a period of time.
Absolutely. And so I learned right from the get-go that they're going to tell me I have to conform. But I had this knowing that it wasn't working. So I went through that the first, until about the mid 90s when I did a lot of resource teaching which is working with kids who have learning challenges like dyslexia, things like that. So I got a little leeway anyway, because they kind of leave you alone. They're like, oh, these kids are in this category, so just let them handle it and we won't worry about it. So I got left alone a little bit.
And how did that feel to have flexibility and freedom in terms of how you did approach the children's learning?
Oh, it felt so much better. And the kids responded. The kids did better. I got yelled at all the time in private. Oh yeah, they call you to the principal's office at 4:00 on Friday night. You know, you're going to get yelled at. And I didn't care. I'm like, my kids are showing progress. My kids are learning. My kids their scores are improving. So fire me. But they, of course, wouldn't. And because, you know, why would they fire a teacher who's got their kids performing in their test score? I'm going to tell the audience a dirty little secret about the schools. Nothing matters except the test scores. That's why they push those standardized tests, and they have all different names for them. I have no idea. Every district has a different name. Every state has a different name. Where I was STAR testing, it's the state standardized testing that they do. Some school districts do it both semesters. Some do it at the end of the school year. It depends on what they do. But that's the only thing that matters to them, is the kids have to perform on those tests, because you know why? Not because of the kids, but because it determines funding for the school. High scores equals more money. That's all they care about.
So not necessarily in the children's best interest.
They're not. They're stupid waste of time. They don't tell you anything, and they're not for anybody's benefit. They're not for the kids' benefit. Kids get all stressed out. I used to tell the kids, you guys don't stress out over this. And then, because, you know, but their classroom teacher would tell them, your whole grade depends on it. You might not get to move up to the next grade. What a load. It's such a lie.
And it's so much to put on little children.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot of pressure.
Yes. So about the 90s, I started noticing that the kids just weren't having it, and they implemented this whole language program, which was basically look at the word and guess. They took away all the phonics, with the idea being that, well, it's an organic process to read. I don't know what lines of BS they push that through, but it was all, this is my thing. Now I realize it was all by design to take all the tools of reading away and create an illiterate generation. And the only kids who survived it intact are the kids who are going to read no matter what the schools did to them. There's a bell curve, you know, and there's a certain element. I'm one of those kids. I have a picture of me reading a book at 3. I remember what book it was. I remember the book. Yes. And I was one of those kids. I just knew how to do it. And I was lucky in kindergarten. The teacher left me alone and just let me read. She knew I could read, so she just left me alone. But that's rare. And if you're one of those kids, you're lucky. But most aren't. And so taking away the tools, and then they sort of brought it back, but not really. So the alphabet's pretty straightforward, except for the vowels. The vowels are complicated, but they only teach short and long now. They don't teach the other sounds. They teach everything as a sight word. Oh, just memorize all the words. Okay, again, these kids probably going to be okay with that. Some kids will. Most kids, especially kids with any kind of a learning challenge, they're not going to do it. It's too hard. But the truth is, there are almost no sight words. If you know the phonics, the deep lost, I call them lost phonics, that they have stripped away over the decades, it just clicks in. Kids should be reading literally the first week of school in kindergarten. But they waste that whole first year mostly coloring worksheets with the letters on them and the numbers on them, but they're not putting anything together. And that's a wasted year of school. And then they go to first grade and expect the first grade teacher to do it. And the first grade teacher's expecting that they can sort of read, but they can't. Maybe some of them, maybe 2 of them can, but most of the 35 to 50 kids in the classroom, at least that was Southern California, big city places, the huge classrooms like that. Most of them can't. And so it's another wasted year because the teachers don't know what to do either, because they took it away from everything is theory. There's no real practice.
So it's a bit of a snowball effect, because you're talking about how, they leave in kindergarten not having what they need, and then they're, it's anticipated that they move on, but they don't have the skills to even get them that first step.
Right. And then to make matters worse, there's no responsibility for what has been stripped away. They just blame the kids. Your child isn't performing. Oh, well, gee, let's think about that for a minute, shall we? Why isn't the child performing? Because you didn't teach him or her anything. You just expected them to magically, suck it out of the air? It doesn't work that way. So you have to give them the tools, and they are tools. Phonics, extreme phonics, the kind that I teach, the math skills, they're tools. And kids love it when you give them a tool and you explain to them how to use it, and then you let them play with it. They start to connect and they get excited, because I'm telling you, when a kid who couldn't read comes in school on Monday for their first day, and by Friday they're reading words, and we're not talking Harry Potter. We're talking word family like fat, rat, cat, sat, mat, but they're reading words. They're unstoppable. They get so excited. They can't wait. They want to learn more, tell us more. And they get all lit up. And that's the magic that teachers are looking for, that they're missing. The teachers who are leaving, they have a heart for it, but they're being crushed. But it's not the kids, it's not the parents, it's the system that's crushing everybody. And that's what has to be. We have to take control of our own lives and our own kids and our own classrooms and say, no, we're not doing it your way anymore.
Well, that's it just for the children, it opens up a whole new world. I can remember learning to read myself, and it was like I couldn't devour enough books, because it was just so, exciting to have all of this now reveal itself to me. And I can imagine, as the teacher that you are, the educator, right? That just must bring such fulfillment to you personally to see the transformations.
Yes. Well, it took me quite a while to get there to where I am now, to get to where I was just in full rebellion. And just, this isn't working. The kids are miserable. I'm miserable. The parents blame the teachers blame the parents. The teachers, don't know any better. They'll send home a bunch of work and make the parents do a bunch of work at home. And the kids are burnt out because they don't get it anyway. Not all kids, but a lot, many more than not. They just don't get it. And so they're frustrated, they're angry, they're acting out, they're fighting with their parents. The parents are blaming the teachers because the teacher is the one they see.
Sure.
But it's the system that's the problem. So you get a teacher, everybody knows when your kid gets a good teacher, you are just like, I love this teacher. This teacher is so, my kid loves this teacher. They're getting a response. The kid is enjoying. There's something good happening there. Mm-hmm. And that is a really critical thing to have happen.
Sure. And was there a tipping point? Was there a particular tipping point, or did you just get there gradually and had your moment?
No, there was a tipping point. I'll share that when we come back from this short break.
That sounds perfect. Absolutely. See you in just moments. Thanks, Kristy.
A life empowered is closer than you think. We're all looking for a better way. Reimagine what's next with a new sense of exuberance. Why not power on like you mean it? or power off blissfully, a better sleep is a better awake. You've never moved like this before, with the energy nature intended. Imagine reprogramming the way you look at the speed of science, at longevity, at exhilaration. It's next level rejuvenation. Take control of your well-being from the inside out and outside in. The light within is ready to ignite. Be the light. LifeWave.
Hi, I'd like to personally invite you incredible women, to an event that's happening on May 17th in Hawaii, Women of the World Networking Event. This isn't just another networking event, it's a space for women, leaders, entrepreneurs, and professionals to connect, learn, and grow together. Whether you want to expand your business, step onto the stage as a speaker, or showcase your business and your brand, there's an opportunity for you if you're ready to take your connections to the next level. Join us on May 17th, and I'll see you there.
Hi, welcome back, everyone. And we're here today with Khristy Boyd-Johnson, who's an educator extraordinaire. And Kristy, we were just talking about a tipping point, right? What got you to where you are today? So what exactly was that?
Well, I had a really weird, experience. I went to a cryon channeling, and I had an opportunity to go up and ask a question. So but at this point, I was so frustrated, and I couldn't understand. I couldn't get through to the kids. They were acting out. The classroom was almost unmanageable. So I asked, what does it take for me to get through to these kids? And the answer was, it doesn't matter what you teach. It only matters that you're present with them. And it hit me so hard. I mean, literally almost knocked me right off my feet. I started crying. I went running back to my seat. People around me were like, "Are you okay?" Patting my shoulder. But something in me just shifted. And I went back and I decided I was just going to be present with the kids and listen to them and not worry so much about this ridiculous pressure that I was getting from the school to get through the curriculum. Mm-hmm. So I started doing it. I just shifted, and I just would say, I slowed everything down, and I started listening to what they were telling me. I started asking questions. We started working more like a team. I started getting the kids to help each other a little bit. Like one would say, "I know how to do it." And then I just would step back and say, "Okay, teach us how to do that." And it evolved into this beautiful synergistic energy where the kids stopped fighting. They started getting along. I could give them independent work, and the ones, like say if it's a little math thing, the kids who were really good at math would just go help the ones that were struggling a little bit without me doing anything. And I was just more acting like a catalyst, and then I would bring them together. And it just shifted into this such much more peaceful environment. And then after that, I decided, you know what, not doing it their way. And so I went on a search for a reading program that actually worked and wasn't just a bunch of ridiculous nonsense the kids didn't want to do. They were bored. They hated it. They fought me. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to find a way to actually teach these kids to read for real. And so I went on a search, my own money, not a professional development paid for by the school. No, my own money, my own time.
Fueled by your own passion.
Yes. And I found a beautiful one. And so I went through their training, and then I started practicing it in the summer.
This is amazing.
I did a summer camp.
Summer camp.
I did a 4-week summer camp for older kids that, I'm like, these kids they're in middle school and they still can't read, or they can read a little bit, but they're pretty much, I don't think people even know how illiterate they are anymore, And so I did it anyway. At 4 weeks, I tried to make it a lot of fun, real interactive and everything.
I'm sure it was.
I did a baseline at the beginning and then at the end I did and every single kid came up at least 1 year, and one kid came up 3 full school years in his reading level. He was so excited to go back to school because he's like, I know I can handle it now. And just that proved to me that this program worked, and that those were older kids. With little kids, you can't do it that way because little kids are just starting. There's a lot more that goes in with a kindergarten class there's a lot more. They have to learn how to hold the pencil rather. They have to learn how to form the letters. There's fine motor skills involved that they're developing because they're 5. So there's a lot more that goes into it at that point in time. These kids already obviously knew the alphabet. I just had to fill in the phonics and the bigger phonics that they don't teach anymore, that they've taken away. And
so you're really tailor making, like you really, in terms of reading the room, so to speak, you're really looking at where you're starting at and taking things from there.
Oh yeah.
Filling those gaps.
Yeah. If you're kindergarten, first graders, they couldn't do a 4-week summer camp in that because it'd go too fast. But older kids who already know some of these things, it's just to fill in the gaps kind of thing, like give them back the tools that were taken away. And they're old enough that they put it together really fast. And so it's just, you cannot put older kids with younger, you just can't. It doesn't work. That's like saying putting a PhD in with a med student, or a medical doctor in with a med student. And teaching them, they're not going to learn at the same level because it just doesn't happen. So little kids have to be, if you start them right from the get-go at kindergarten, in K1, in 2 years of school, they're going to be reading at least at a 3rd grade level, and the more advanced, you just don't know. Every kid is a little different. So at least at a 3rd grade level, maybe higher. So I mean, even kids who suffer from dyslexia, that's one of the things, because everything is multisensory, everything is interactive, and everything is paced to allow them space and time to connect. They go so fast in school and they rush through things. One of my pet peeves is math, because they start introducing concepts to kids who are just learning addition and subtraction that they don't have any business throwing at them when they're that young. Don't tell a kid to find the area of a rectangle when they don't know how to multiply. That's even sane, So I started about it to the point. So my tipping point, I shifted. First, it was emotional. Then I went and found tools. Then I started using the tools in the classroom, but I would tell the kids, shh, don't tell on me, guys. And we would have our secret lessons, and they started to grow, and they would get so excited. They're like, we can't wait to go to Miss J's classroom. And every school is different. Sometimes they would come to me for resource, or it depends on the school and the school district. Everybody does it differently. So, but I would tell them, don't tell on me, because I probably got in trouble all the time anyway. But the kids were growing and learning, and their test scores were coming out higher. And so
Well, and I think it's important
Yeah.
because what you're doing to really underscore the importance is that you're giving these children a foundation, because everything from there on is really dependent on our comprehension, right? As you age and go through different levels of education, it's really important that you have the the basics of being able to read and comprehend. And if
Absolutely.
and if there's any level of impairment, it just snowballs into people, maybe not being able to go as far as their potential would have taken them, because they were missing this puzzle piece, this fundamental puzzle piece, because you have to admit that this is a really fundamental skill,
It is
right?
the number one most important foundational skill, reading above math. I know STEM people think it's math, but it's not, because without reading, you can't always do math. What if you have a word problem? You can't read it. What if you're doing a recipe and you mess it up? What if you're a chemist and you read the recipe wrong because you can't read well? You could blow the lab. That's an extreme example, but for kids, math, not most, but many math problems are actually reading problems. Because when you tell them, like the word reciprocal came up the other day, and I was teaching the teacher how to go back to her classroom and teach this, because she didn't know, and she's in a panic. And I'm like, look, just get on Zoom with me. I'll teach you how to do it. Go back to your classroom and do it the way I tell you. And so the word reciprocal, she goes, I don't even know what this word is. And I said, it's the word reciprocal, the fancy math word reciprocal. All that means is that you flip a fraction over. So if it's 2 over 3, it flips and becomes 3 over 2. That's all it means. That's it. Tell the kids that. They'll get it. And then, yeah. And then I taught her with a whole number, you put it over 1 and then you flip it. And so it'd be like, say it was a 4. You put it over 1 and then you flip it and it's 1 over 4. But she didn't even know that. She's the teacher. How is she supposed to teach the kids? But it was a reading problem because the word isn't defined. They don't actually say in real language what it means. And so how do you tell the kid, you throw a math word at the kids and expect them to just magically know what it is?
Right.
And then of course, it is how simple is it? You flip it over, right? Well, once they know that, then it's easy.
Right.
And it's the same. All of it is like that. All of it, all learning is like that. When, something that's very difficult to learn, like I've had kids say to me, well, I'm not going to college. I'm going to just be an auto mechanic. I'm like, oh, really? Mm-hmm. Well, does every car have the same system in it? Mm-hmm. Or are Hondas different from Fords, different from, whatever, mm-hmm. right? And if you don't know something and you have to look it up in the manual, how are you going to look it up if you don't know how to read it? Oh, and so then we went through this whole thing of them trying to stump me, and they were determined to find something you didn't need reading for.
And it's true, and so that that's obviously one message you're giving to kids. What would some messages be? Because obviously you've had such vast experience over the years. What are your messages to children?
Oh, well, the kids are my entire platform with kids. It's all, this is fun. This is easy. If we make a mistake, that is a time for celebration, because then we have an opportunity for everybody to learn from that mistake. Yeah. We figure out what the mistake is, where we went wrong, and then how to fix it. And then everybody learns something. And I mean, someone would make a mistake and I'd stop everything and I go, oh, little Cynthia made a mistake. Yay! Let's figure it out. And we'd all figure it out. And little kids, that kind of thing you make it joyful. You make it fun. You give them lots and lots of supportive learning things, which should be gamified, because sitting kids it is the artificial classroom environment. This is one of the things I figured out, and I'll tell you what I did to change it. If we think about it, the kids go to school at a certain time. When you grow up and you work in an office, you go to work at a certain time. You work until your recess. You work until your coffee break. 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Then you work again until your lunch. You work again until your lunch. Kids get out half hour, maybe 40 minutes. You may get an hour for, right? Then you come back and you work again until your afternoon coffee break, your afternoon.
So true.
And then you work again until you go home and you're dismissed from school. It's a little bit shorter day, but it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
That is artificial. Kids are not meant to sit in a chair and passively absorb things. That's not how we learn. Nobody learns that way. And what does work, though, is you bring in a concept, you play with it, you explore it, you have them do things where they get to explore it, a game where they get to play with it a little bit. And then you let them start telling you what their connections are. And they come up, when a kid runs up to you and goes, I just learned this, and they tell you, and it's like, you're just going, sometimes it's, okay, good, they got it. And sometimes it's, how did they make that connection? That is freaking amazing.
And you know what you're doing here really goes far beyond just an educational aspect, because it's really about self-esteem and building these little children up to be, self-assured and wanting to explore, because they realize that exploring, making a mistake is no longer a negative thing.
Right.
Because I think it's conditioned from a very early age that mistakes are negative, and not having an answer is negative. And so, we all get, along this path where, we must do well and we must do this, and it's okay, to veer and learn from it.
Yeah. At one point in my life, I had a situation personally where my mom took a really bad fall, got hurt very badly, and I couldn't go back to work because she was literally 24/7 care around. I couldn't go to work. So I didn't teach at that point. But when she was well enough, I went back as a sub. And being a resource teacher, that was a very welcome thing, because resource teachers, all my friends were like, thank God, because someone who knows what she's doing, because most of them don't know how to do. Resource is a different animal.
Yeah.
And so, I at one point I was teaching a 7-8 combo class, grade 7 and 8, and I challenged them to stump me. And so what I started doing is, but they would, every once in a while, they'd come up with something. And I go, I love that question. Let's find out the answer. And I would set them all to helping me find the answer. And it shifted it out of, ooh, she doesn't know something. Ooh, you're the teacher, you're supposed to know everything. To, no, we're learning.
They're learning to be resourceful and helpful and help each other. Lot of learnings there.
Yeah. And then I played games with them after that. It was fun. I tried to be, 7th and 8th graders are pretty scary. So gamify it as much as possible.
Well, I had some pretty interesting and amazing teachers in my time through education, but I would have really loved to have been in one of your classes, I think, Kristy. And we're going to be right back after this quick break and finding out even more. So thank you.
Ever feel like you're doing it all, but doing it alone? Running your business, supporting your family, trying to stay grounded while juggling everything. You're not the only one. You deserve a space where you can just exhale. A room where you don't have to prove anything. Because everyone already gets it. Where conversations go beyond small talk. Where stories are shared, not judged. Where new connections feel like old friends. This is that space. This is that room. This is that moment. Come refill your cup. Be seen. Be celebrated. Because when women come together, powerful things happen. Let's grow, rise, and lead together. Join us on May 17th, Women of the World Hawaii pop-up event in Honolulu. Hope to see you.
Welcome to a reimagined world where kids can't wait to go to school, beg for books to read. Math is an exciting game, and teachers get to love teaching again. Meet Khristy Boyd-Johnson. She's been in the trenches and emerged with the keys to making education a fun, free, and inspiring experience. Email her at barefootlearningclub@gmail.com and chat with her one-on-one. Her philosophy? Foundation plus imagination equals genius.
Imagine a life where every day is fueled by energy, vitality, and purpose. Where age is just a number and your best years are always ahead. Hi, I'm Andy Nam, certified functional nutrition longevity coach, best-selling author, and international speaker. After reversing my own chronic health struggles, I'm now on a mission to help you live longer, stronger, and of course to look younger. I combine biohacking, cutting-edge nutrition, and stem cell technology to unlock your body's full potential. So no matter where your starting point is, I'm going to guide you toward a chronically healthy life. Ready to reverse aging and take control of your future? Connect with me today. Your journey to longevity starts here.
That's great, Kristy. And we've just been talking about your messages to children, but there's another part of that equation, would be the parents. And so what has been your experience with parents? What would you be telling parents?
Well, parents parents are, of course, a wide variety of types of parents, but basically most parents, they want their kids to succeed. So when they see their kids growing and being excited, they tend to project everything onto the teacher. So if they're loving me because their kids are happy, and if there's a problem, I'm very much a communicator. So I will say, well, I always talk to the kids. I get down on their level and talk directly to them. But if there's a real problem, then I talk to the parents and I tell them, let's work as a team because we're in this for the kid. And that I'm a big believer in that. So, but parents, when you take the pressure off of parents, then they relax too. So I personally don't like homework except in certain situations. When you're older kids who are learning things like algebra and geometry, I do support homework in that, although I don't support it when they give them 50 problems and all 50 problems have A through F. I mean, that's just like an insane, undoable amount of homework.
It sounds like a lot.
Yes. But supportive homework for the lesson that day for that level of math, I think is valuable, very, very valuable. I think mastering those things with kids, it just takes practice.
Yeah, it reinforces. Yeah,
absolutely. But little kids, they need play. So I never send home homework. I do everything in the classroom, and then homework support is, I tell the parents, the only thing I really want you to do is read with your kids. And if I have a math game going and the kids are really into it, it's very, very easy to recreate a math game at home or print them and send them home if the kids want to play. But I tend to let them be more, hey, why don't you teach your parents how to play this game? Have a 15-minute teach your mom how to play this game thing. And the kids like that. They love to show what they've learned. And so when the parents get into the fun of that, then it becomes even more fun, because then they come back the next day and tell me what's going on. It's pretty funny. So, and then the other thing is with parents too, it's really, really important for everybody, teachers, parents, everybody, to understand kids are not adults. They don't think like adults. They don't act like adults. They don't communicate like adults. They don't register things like adults. So you have to communicate with a child. If you say to a child, if you want that child to clean their room, say, if you just say, go clean your room, generally speaking, now this is not applied to teenagers, but with very young children, they don't really understand what that means. So they might pick up their toys and think they cleaned their room. Yeah. So if they get yelled at, then they just won't do it at all. So it's better to say, let's pick up your toys and make a game. And then the next thing we're going to do after we pick up the toys is we're going to make your bed. You teach them what is expected and appropriately. It's appropriate for them to take their trash can and empty it into the big trash bin, say, or the trash bag or something. It's not appropriate for them for a 5-year-old, say, to understand clean your room as a big concept, the way the mom is thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's so true.
Yes. So it's the exact same thing in the classroom. I cannot tell a child, well, the model of sit down, shut up, and do what you're told, first of all, is criminal. And I'm on a mission to completely get rid of that.
So none of that anymore.
Yeah. And the other thing is don't move school if you're homeschooling, don't move school to your dining room. Just don't. It doesn't work. Sitting there for hours like that, it doesn't work with young children. Of course, as kids get older, you can do more things with them. But for very young children, it should never be more than 2 hours all put together. And that includes breaks with play, with, stuff like that. So one of the things I had in my classroom that worked really well, I got one of those, it's huge, big, fluffy pillow things. They're like giant beanbag chairs, but they're filled with like feather. And I stuck
Sounds wonderful.
I need a break sign up there. And I taught them right at the beginning. Okay, this egg timer, 3 minutes. And then you set it for 3. And then when it goes off, you say to yourself, do I want to go back or do I want 1 more minute? It's okay. Either way is okay. If you want 1 more minute, you set it for 1, but then you have to come back. Because everybody has, if they need a chance, if they're waiting, you have to come back. But of course, the first week of school, they test me to see if I'm paying attention, to see if they
I love that.
over and over. And I tell them, if you don't abide by my rule here, then I'm taking the corner away. So the very first day, inevitably, I take it away, and that ended that. Because you never make a threat you can't follow through on, and the threat has to be something not violent, but it has to be something they really want.
Yeah. And
then you have to follow through. So never make a threat you can't follow through on. I had personally, one day I was babysitting my niece and nephew, and my mom and I took them to SeaWorld for the day. Well, my niece was being a little snot.
Oh no.
And so I put up with it in the car. We got there, we went in, and I'd had it. So I sat down on the bench and I told my mom to take my nephew ahead. And I said, is there something wrong that you need to talk about? Are you upset about something? Are you angry? Is there something I need to know? And she's sitting there with her arms crossed. No, really, really nasty.
Oh,
and I said, okay, well, if there's nothing wrong that you need to talk about and you're not mad at your brother for something, then I need you to understand that this attitude is going to stop right now. We are at SeaWorld. It's a fun day. And if you don't stop it, I'm going to take you home and I'm going to let grandma and your brother stay here all day, and I'll come back and get them at the end of the day.
Oh, those are pretty high stakes.
Yeah. And I just sat there and shut up and let her think about it. And it didn't even take 2 minutes. She was like, I'm sorry, Aunt Chris. And we went, and that was it. And we had a wonderful, fun day.
That was it.
That was it.
So
but she knew if I made a threat, I would follow through on it.
Okay.
So because that's what it takes. You have to, if you threaten to take away a toy because they're, I don't know, ripping up the toy or something, you have to take away the toy if they continue. then they know you mean it.
Otherwise, and you're right, because then it becomes a free for all. It's like, then whatever anybody says doesn't apply to me, and I'm just going to do what I want. And
and that's where we get into major behavior problems in the classroom. If they're not consistently, like I never really had behavior problems because I gave them space to feel their feelings. If they were frustrated, they could tell me. If they didn't understand something, they could tell me. And I would figure it out. We'd work together. We'd figure it out. which is not to say I didn't have my off days, because I'm a human being too. But generally speaking, if I told them, there were days that I actually had to show up, even though I was physically ill, but I had to. And I would have my thermos with my tea, and I'd be like all wrapped up in, have a scarf around my head, and I'd be like all freezing, you know, and I'd be like, you guys, be really nice to me today.
Shaking from fever.
Yeah. And be really nice to me today. And I'd just kind of give them self-directed activities to do. I'd let them rotate through, and they like that anyway, but they would, Jay, are you okay? And they'd want to like take care of me.
Oh, that's adorable.
They'd be so good. And so that's, you know, but you can tell with older kids that you haven't had a chance to do that with. A lot of times in the classroom, when you make a threat, they know you won't follow through on it. So they just keep doing it. Or we send them to the principal's office and they give us no support. They just send them right back. So the kids know it doesn't matter if you send me to the principal's office, they're just going to send me back. There's no repercussions. There's no, so, you know, I mean, I've had kids like physically get up and start pounding on another kid. And I sent them out, and 5 minutes later, they're back in the classroom because they don't do anything. So that kind of lack of support is why teachers start to get to the point of, you know, I can't do this anymore. They're frustrated, they're angry, they're upset, the kids aren't learning, everybody's taking everything out on them, they're getting all the blame. And it's the blame game has to stop. Oh no, it's the teacher's fault. Oh no, it's the parents' fault. Oh no, it's the kids, they're not learning. There's only one problem, and the problem is the system is designed for everybody to fail. And we have to just say no more. And that's my plan. That's what I'm developing with Barefoot Learning Club. I'm going to help people learn how to do it. I know people can't teach reading. That's a very scary idea for parents lots and lots of parents want to take their kids out of school. They know it's a toxic environment, but they're like, I don't know how to teach reading. Well, I know how to teach reading, and I'm going to help the parents.
For sure. Well, and so Kristy, what is the number one thing that you think you provide parents, and what's the number one thing that you think you provide children? What would that be?
Number one, well, with kids, my number, I think kids can see your genuine heart. And I'm a teacher that has a genuine heart for teaching kids.
It's so obvious your passion is beyond. It's absolutely evident.
And I do think I think parents recognize that. And my biggest message to parents is just relax. You know, don't believe everything the schools tell you. Oh, and back to that STAR testing or whatever standardized testing, whatever name they call it. Dirty little secret. Parents, you can excuse your child from it. It is not part of school. It is not up to the school to demand that you take it. You can write, it has to be in writing. You send an email to the school and you say, I do not want my child with his name participating in the STAR testing or whatever they call it. And that does not mean they still have to go to school, because public schools are big on attendance. But what they'll do is they take all the kids who are excused usually to the library and they do something with them, or they read or whatever. They can't just sit home and play video games, but they don't have to take that testing because it has nothing at all to do with their grades, no matter what they tell you. That's not true.
So this is really good insight you're giving everyone.
Yes. I'm like, if more parents excuse their kids, pretty soon they wouldn't bother with them anymore because, you know, because everybody's excusing, I'm not doing this anymore. And there's too much pressure. There's too much pressure on the teachers to bring the grades up. I don't know if you remember them, to all this talk about teaching to the test. That's what that was all about. Was we have to bring scores up so our school gets more funding. Why is school funding tied to that? When in fact, the system is designed for the kids to fail. What is that about? So, you know, no, I'm just not, I have grown into this rebel of I'm not playing this game anymore. It's not just broken. It's designed for them to fail. It's designed to put the blame on everyone else, but where it actually belongs. And it ruins relationships, and it's don't let school ruin your relationship with your child. If they're frustrated with the homework, don't do it. Especially if they're little. Who cares? Color this worksheet. Really? Is that really going to be the be all end all of their life if they don't color the worksheet? I don't think so. So
no, this is amazing, Kristy. Thank you. And actually, as we always like to ask a fun little question. And so the fun question that I have is, growing up, is there like maybe the strangest or wildest memory that you can think of? Anything like that?
Oh, when I was 9 years old, we lived in a haunted house. That house scared me.
Okay, that's huge.
I'm a highly sensitive person, and I mean, there were noises. At one point, I got pushed. My room was kind of at the top of the stairs, and I would hold. There were railings on both. I would hold on so tight every time I went up and down the stairs because I could feel. One time, something pushed me. There was nobody there. Everybody was downstairs. That house creeped me out. I felt. Yeah.
Sorry.
When my mom was home, I stuck really close to her.
Well, and for how long did you live there? Like, I hope this wasn't like 20 years.
No, we lived there for 1 year.
For 1 year. Okay.
And then my dad got a new job and we moved and away from that area. So yeah, it was, I was so glad when that house creeped me out big time. Yeah. I would wake up with nightmares every night. Oh yeah, of course.
You're okay. You're all fine.
Yeah.
Kristy, this is lovely. Obviously, then your scary story at the end, but how do parents get in touch with you? Because it just sounds like this is such a pivotal part of their children's growth and development. So how do people get you? How do they reach you?
Well, if you go to Facebook and go to 30-Day Head Start, and just tell me you saw the podcast, you saw our Chronic Health Collective show. I'll just let you in, and I'm trying to build that to give parents lots of tips and everything on what to do and provide resources and everything. The email on there is wrong. It's not barefootlearningclub.com at Gmail. It's barefootlearningclub@gmail.com.
That's
so
perfect.
I don't know why that's wrong on there, but that's not right. So, or you can just search me on LinkedIn. My website is currently down because I'm creating a video series so that parents can just put me on and then work with their kids to learn to read right from the get-go, starting young.
Yeah. Oh, Kristy, that's perfect. And thank you. It's been an absolute delight talking with you. And I really do encourage parents to reach out because it really feels that you're filling such a needed, necessary gap in their children's life. And
yes.
and so thank you, Kristy. And thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. It's fun.
Lots of fun. And for next week, we have Dawn, who's going to be the host of the show, and I will be the guest speaker. So I'll be sitting on the other side of things. And if today's discussion resonated with you, remember you don't have to navigate any journey alone. So you can book a complimentary consultation with any of our coaches on our website, which is chronichealthcollective.com. And you can get the personalized support that you do need. And be sure to sign up for our Chronic Health Collective monthly magazine, also at chronichealthcollective.com. And this is where all 13 of our expert coaches share invaluable tips and ways to elevate your life every day. And join us every Tuesday at 7 p.m. CST for more transformative insights, really just to help you up-level every aspect of your health and your life. And if you've missed an episode, don't worry. You can catch up anytime at watch.e360tv.com. And it's on the Vitality TV network and on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Chronic Healthy Collective. So until next time, stay healthy, stay inspired, as Kristy did for us today. And as always, live your chronic healthy life.
Why do 98% of beauty enthusiasts rave about coolness? It's all in the blend of ancient wisdom and modern science. Introducing Coolness Pearlescent Face and Eye Serum Cream. This powerhouse combines the antioxidative power of schisandra berries, the glow of pearl powder, and the hydrating wonders of dragon's blood extract. It's like a time machine for your skin, making it radiant, firm, and oh so smooth. Inspired by ancient Chinese traditions and backed by modern nutritional science, this serum cream is perfect for dry, mature, and aging skin. Say goodbye to dullness and hello to youthful radiance. And guess what? For a limited time, you get a free cooling eye cream applicator with your purchase. It's time to unlock your inner glow with coolness. So what are you waiting for? Treat your skin to the best of both worlds today.